Hello and welcome. I'm Austin Kopelarczyk, bringing you episode 7 of Book Review. This time we'll be talking about Ivan Wyschnegradsky's Manual of Quarter-Tone Harmony, 3rd edition, published in 2017. So, Ivan Wyschnegradsky was a Russian-born composer, living from 1893 to 1979. After spending his early life in Russia, he moved to Paris in 1920 with his family. Wyschnegradsky's life was dedicated to exploring expanded harmonies and his goal of building a true quarter-tone piano. These attempts to find a perfect piano for his work led to the commissioning of a quarter-tone piano from the August Förster company in Germany, which they briefly mention on their website's history section. Wyschnegradsky wrote and published well over 50 works in different tuning systems, ranging from the quarter-tone system his manual discusses, to a piece for the Fokker organ built for 31-tone equal temperament system. His Manual of Quarter-Tone Harmony was published in 1932, and this edition, published with permission from the Association Ivan Wyschnegradsky and Wyschnegradsky's son, edited and translated by Noah and Rosalie Kaplan, was released in 2017. Noah and Rosalie K., as Noah's biography refers to them as, are both musicians and composers in their own rights, currently based in New York. A link to both Noah's website and Under Wolf Records, the company the couple is involved in, according to my research, will both be linked in the description. So the book is split into 8 primary sections, not including the foreword and the preface. The first 2 are preliminary concepts and new intervals, which is an introduction to the concepts described in the manual. Part 1 is the first 4 actual chapters: altered ornaments, chromatic passing tones, quarter-tone altered chords, and modulation to new keys. Part 2 is the last 2 chapters: artificial quarter-tone scales and the free use of quarter tones. There's an appendix as well, titled The Acoustic Basis of the Quarter-Tone System, which is a justification for the expansion of the 12-tone equal temperament system into 24 equal temperament tones. The introduction of preliminary concepts and new intervals discusses the basics of the notation system Wyschnegradsky is going to use, such as the quarter-tone sharp, the sharp in a quarter, the quarter-tone flat, and the flat in a quarter. These lead to the new chromatic quarter-tone scale, ascending and descending, as well as new enharmonics. Then, the new intervals section discusses the intervals created because of this: the quarter-tone second, neutral intervals, quarter high or quarter low intervals, major and minor fourths and fifths, as well as the super augmented and super diminished intervals, and the quarter-tone seventh. As is the case with 12-tone equal temperament, intervals invert into their opposites. Neutral inverts into neutral, quarter-tone low inverts into quarter-tone high, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. Wyschnegradsky also explains cycles of scales and notes in his own words, which are just alternative ways to build the scales. And that ends the introduction of the manual. Part 1, all 4 chapters, to put it simply, inserts quarter-tonal harmonies into the basic concepts of Western music theory. Chapter 1 explains them as embellishments and ornaments. Chapter 2, passing tones. These both build into Chapter 3, altered chords, which is altering a single note of a chord. Wyschnegradsky introduces 13 new chords based on this concept, dividing them into 4 categories: major chord variations, minor chord variations, raised fundamental chords, and lower fundamental chords. The last 2 fall under the altered fundamental chords category. Finally, in Chapter 4, Wyschnegradsky introduces the new keys created by this system. Part 2, Chapter 1, discusses building scales in greater detail, and Chapter 2 discusses the atonal usage of quarter tones. This is followed by an appendix, including the foreword and preface. There are about 35 to 40 pages in the manual. It's short, it's sweet, and it's very straightforward. So my opinion. Overall, the approach in the manual builds on the basics of Western music theory tradition, building from early classical concepts and building up to what, at the time, was some of the most contemporary and modern topics, such as atonality and free polytonality. Despite its shortness, I feel it imparts, in a rather straightforward way, the concepts that Wyschnegradsky would go to build his work upon. Unfortunately, unlike some of the books I've talked about on this channel, there are few examples Wyschnegradsky did not write listed in the books. Take, for example, Vincent Persichetti's 20th Century Harmony. After each section and concept is introduced, Persichetti introduces a list of composers and their works, and specific publication editions to check out that'll give you further study and areas to look into. While I understand that Wyschnegradsky was a pioneer in the field, I felt that there could have been more reference to works of a similar type happening at the same time. For example, Charles Ives wrote his 3 quarter-tone pieces in 1925 to showcase a piano built for pianist and composer Hans Barth, who premiered his own composition, Concerto for Quarter-Tone Piano and Strings, in 1930. Wyschnegradsky, in fact, contributed his original version of the concepts published in the manual to Pro Musica Quarterly, a transatlantic music journal, which had featured discussions on quarter tonality in the past. In fact, the article was a response to an earlier article on quarter tonality by Charles Ives. So, with the knowledge that Wyschnegradsky was involved with his contemporaries in the field, in the knowledge of expanded tuning systems, I felt, personally, that there could have been more inclusion of outside examples and avenues that could lead to further study. As always, before the final verdict, accessibility. Currently, I can only find this edition of the manual, the English translation, on the website of Underwolf Records. The book is $24. However, there is currently a warning on their website regarding concerns about shipping due to impacts on shipping by the recent pandemic. To be quite honest, I've got mixed opinions on the book. I find most of the content interesting, and it might serve as a fair stepping stone into the concepts of different tuning systems. If you're into that, and you think it might further your own writing, I'd recommend looking into it for yourself. For me, 24-tone equal temperaments and other expanded tuning systems are not where I'm headed in my writing. But I think this manual is what helped me realize this, as the concepts were enough to quench my thirst for this avenue of expression. It's a fascinating read regardless, but I think it would be best serve someone who wants a high dive board into the concepts. Either you get to the top and find out it's too much for you and you need to climb back down, or you dive into it head first. If you'd like to climb up for yourself, feel free to get the book. If you aren't interested, and you know that, I wouldn't bother. However, shameless plug here, if you're interested in some other avenues to explore, feel free to check out any of my other book reviews on the channel to see if you enjoy any of the other books I reviewed, or hit the subscribe button to follow for any upcoming reviews. If you've enjoyed this review, feel free to like the video, and if you've got opinions on the book, or are planning on buying a copy, or have an experience buying a copy, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. As I haven't personally bought the book, I borrowed it through an interlibrary loan, and decided that was enough for me. So please, feel free to tell me what you think. I'd love to hear discussion, and would love to hear all your thoughts. That's all for now. Thanks. I'll see you next time.